My boyfriend made me wait for 2 hours at an expensive restaurant on our anniversary. When he finally arrived with his friends, he loudly said, "See, I told you she'd still be here like a pathetic puppy." They all laughed. We had been together for 3 years, and I had just paid off his car loan. I smiled and ordered another drink. This morning, my phone showed 78 missed calls, and his belongings are now in garbage bags at the dump. Randy and I met 3 years ago when my apartment flooded after my upstairs neighbor left their bathtub running all weekend. Who does that? I had to crash at my brother's place while waiting for repairs, and Randy was the plumber assigned to fix everything. He kept finding new problems every time he visited, which I now realize was just his way of seeing me more. Back then I thought it was sweet. Now I wonder if he deliberately sabotaged my pipes to drag it out. I remember how effortless talking to him felt, which is rare for me because I'm usually tongue-tied around new people. Fast forward to year 1, things seemed wonderful. We moved in together after 8 months. Too quick, I know, because his lease was ending and it made financial sense. Randy worked as a plumber but struggled with steady income because he constantly clashed with different companies. He'd either get fired for tardiness or he'd quit because his bosses were jerks who didn't appreciate his talents. Red flag number 1 that I completely overlooked. Throughout the years, Randy would bombard me with lengthy, rage-filled Telegram voice messages about his boss, calling him a brainless monkey, and mocking his accent or wardrobe. He'd rant about how his boss was too dense to operate a doorknob and how he was carrying the entire company without a shred of recognition. I'd save these messages in my favorites folder, sometimes even downloading particularly vicious ones. Not sure why I preserved them. Perhaps subconsciously I knew they'd matter someday. He treated his parents identically, especially when they refused to lend money. He'd send these horrific voice messages calling his dad a pathetic excuse for a man, and his mom a jerk who can't think independently. Once, after they declined to help with his car payment, he recorded a 5-minute tirade about how they were failures who never accomplished anything and how he was ashamed to share DNA with such losers. I remember feeling incredibly uncomfortable hearing these, but I mindlessly added them to my favorites folder anyway. By year 2, I was essentially covering most expenses. My job isn't remarkable, but it's consistent, and I kept telling myself relationships require balance. Sometimes one person carries more weight until the other finds solid ground. Randy constantly promised things would improve soon. He just needed one good opportunity, and everything would transform. 6 months ago, Randy's car broke down, a 2015 Mustang that vastly exceeded his budget. He was devastated because apparently it was his dream ride, and he needed reliable transportation for work. I foolishly offered to help with payments since it affected his ability to maintain employment. I ended up shouldering the entire loan, $386 monthly, which strains my finances. I guess I wanted to be supportive and thought maybe this would help him stabilize. Edit. Many people asked why I'd pay for his car. Looking back, the mistake seems obvious, but in the moment, it felt like I was helping us both. We lived together, shared expenses, and without transportation, he couldn't work reliably. Plus, he was extremely emotional about potentially losing his baby. So, anyway, last night was our 3-year anniversary, and I had just completed the final payment on his car last week, which was a massive financial stretch for me. I reserved a table at this fancy restaurant downtown that we'd always talked about trying but could never justify. Translation: I couldn't afford to treat us both. I spent ages preparing. New dress, styled hair, the whole production. I arrived at 7 p.m. sharp for our reservation. Randy texted that he was running behind and asked me to get seated. By 7:30, I had texted 3 times with no response. By 8, I'd called twice, straight to voicemail. The waitress kept giving me these sympathetic glances and asking if I wanted to order or perhaps reschedule. I was mortified but kept saying, "He's just delayed, probably traffic," while checking my phone every 2 minutes. At 8:45. Yes, I'd been sitting alone for nearly 2 hours. I was about to surrender when Randy finally walked in with 4 of his friends. This wasn't miscommunication. He'd never mentioned bringing anyone to our anniversary dinner. So they all approached my table, laughing and visibly buzzed, and then, I still can't believe this happened. Randy turns to his friends and announces loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "See, told you she'd still be here like a pathetic puppy. 2 hours, and she didn't leave." They all erupted in laughter. One of his friends, Jake, who I've always considered a complete jerk, goes, "Damn, you weren't kidding. She's trained perfectly." More laughter. Randy then sits beside me, pinches my cheeks between his fingers like I'm a child, and says, "This is why she's the best." Most women would have stormed out, but she pays my bills and waits around like a good girl. Then he looked at me with this revolting smirk and said, "Did you think this would be some romantic dinner? That's adorable. We have a poker game after this." I just needed to confirm you're good for the next payment first. When I didn't respond, he roughly grabbed my chin and turned my face toward him, saying, "Hello, Earth to Sea. God, you're pathetic sometimes. Say something, or are you just going to sit there looking like a sad puppy?" His friends found this hysterical. I literally couldn't breathe. 3 years together, I had just poured nearly 12K into paying off his car. And this was his opinion of me? This is what he told his friends about me. That I was some pathetic doormat he could mistreat at will. The server approached, looking extremely uncomfortable, and asked if we were ready to order. I somehow managed to smile and say, "Actually, I'd like another glass of wine first." Randy and his friends ordered numerous expensive appetizers and drinks, occasionally joking about my patience and how fortunate Randy was to have found someone so understanding. Randy then pointed at me and told the server, "Don't worry about bringing her food though, she's watching her weight. Another few pounds, and we'd need a bigger table." Everyone laughed while I sat there, utterly humiliated. After my wine arrived, I took a slow sip, placed it down carefully, and announced I needed to use the restroom. Randy barely acknowledged me. He was busy entertaining his friends with some story about his boss being an idiot. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection for a solid 5 minutes. I wasn't crying, I wasn't even angry yet. I was just finished. 3 years of making excuses for him. 3 years of financially supporting us. 3 years of ignoring warning signs. And this was his true perspective. That's when I made a decision. I wouldn't create a scene, I wouldn't sob or shout or throw drinks. No, Randy deserved something more calculated. I opened Telegram and scrolled through all those saved voice messages from Randy. The ones where he trashed his boss as incompetent and fraudulent and his parents as pathetic failures. I had dozens saved in my favorites folder. Some even downloaded to my phone. I texted my friend Emma, who lives nearby, and asked if she could pick me up in 10 minutes. Then I returned to the table, smiled at everyone, and excused myself again, claiming I needed to make a quick call about a work emergency. As I walked out, I stopped by the server and quietly paid for my wines, and only my wines, on my card. I informed her the gentleman would be covering the remaining bill. Then I walked out, got into Emma's car, and blocked Randy's number before he could even realize I was gone. But here's the twist. I didn't just block his number. I had a plan forming. See, over the years, I'd helped Randy with countless tech issues. I had access to his email, his cloud accounts, his banking app to make those car payments, and even his social media. And I know exactly how information can be shared most effectively. That was just last night. This morning, I woke up to 78 missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. His friends, probably. And the most satisfying string of panicked texts from Randy's work phone begging me to please talk to him, and it was just a joke, and asking, "What did you do?" What did I do? Well, that's a story for tomorrow when I have more time to write it all out. Let's just say his boss and parents received some very interesting Telegram voice clips this morning. And that car he loved so much. Turns out when you cancel the final payment and provide the lender with evidence of fraud, they take repossession very seriously. More to come. I need to finish packing up his things for their new home at the local dump. Edit. Thank you for all the support in the comments. For those asking if this is real, unfortunately, yes. For those worried about legal issues, don't be. Everything I did was 100% within my rights. I'll explain more in my next update. First update. So many of you requested an update on what happened after I left the restaurant, so here we go. After Emma picked me up from the restaurant, I was in this strange state of calm. I wasn't even crying, which is abnormal for me. I tear up at dog food commercials. I think I was just in shock. Emma kept asking if I was okay, and I remember just staring out the window, thinking about all those voice messages I'd archived from Randy over the years. When we reached home, I finally broke down. Ugly, crying with mascara streaking everywhere, the whole spectacle. Emma simply sat with me, brought ice cream, cookie dough flavor, my absolute favorite, and let me vent for 2 hours straight. She didn't even glance at her phone once, which is the definition of friendship goals. Around midnight, my phone started exploding with texts from Randy. Initially they were angry, like, "Where TF did you go?" And "You seriously stuck me with the bill." Then they shifted to fake concern. "Are you okay?" And "Just let me know you're safe." By 1 a.m., he was sending these paragraph-length texts about how it was just a joke and how I was overreacting. Classic gaslighting tactics. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I created a list. I'm a notorious list-making fiend. Of all the accounts I had access to: 1, his email from when I helped with his job hunt; 2, his Instagram. He constantly forgot his password. 3, his iCloud, configured on my laptop when his broke. 4, his Spotify, we shared a family plan I funded. 5, his banking app for car payments. 6, our shared Netflix, again, that I paid for. As I compiled this list, I realized how utterly insane it was that he had granted me access to essentially his entire digital existence, but it also gave me this strange sense of power. For the first time in our relationship, I felt like I controlled something. Edit. Some commenters are worried this is illegal. Don't worry. He literally provided all these passwords and asked me to manage these accounts for him. I'm not hacking anything. The next morning, after maybe 3 hours of sleep, I initiated my plan. First step was addressing the car. I logged into his banking app and discovered that the payment I had made last week was still processing. It hadn't fully cleared yet. I immediately contacted the bank and explained that I needed to cancel a payment due to fraud. The customer service representative was incredibly sympathetic when I explained that I had been manipulated into making payments for someone else's vehicle. They requested documentation, so I sent screenshots of text conversations where Randy had essentially admitted the car was exclusively his, not mine. I also mentioned that I had voice recordings of him bragging to friends about how I was covering his car payments, which I actually did have from one of those Telegram voice messages where he was gloating to his friend about how I was financing all his expenses. The bank put me on hold for what seemed like eternity, then returned and said they would reverse the payment while investigating. While handling the bank situation, Randy called approximately 15 times. I sent him to voicemail every time. He left increasingly desperate messages. First angry, then apologetic, then back to angry. In one voicemail he actually said, "You're overreacting to a harmless joke and ruining our anniversary." Our anniversary. The one where he arrived 2 hours late with his friends and humiliated me. That anniversary. Bullshit. Around noon, I decided to examine his other accounts. I wasn't planning anything malicious, but I was curious if there was additional information I should know. My God, I discovered everything. There were dozens of messages between Randy and his friends planning the entire restaurant scenario. They had been discussing it for days. One message from Jake, his jerk friend, said, "Can't wait to see her face when you reveal it's not actually an anniversary dinner." Randy replied with, "She'll probably just sit there and take it like always." But wait, it gets worse. As I continued scrolling, I uncovered emails with some girl named Amber from his workplace. Flirtatious emails with pictures, dating back months. Nothing explicitly stating they were involved, but definitely crossing boundaries. One message from just last week had the subject line "after work," with merely a winking emoji in the body. At this point I was trembling. 3 years of my life, thousands of dollars, all the support and patience I had invested, and this was how he repaid me. I took a break and made some coffee. Spilled it everywhere because my hands were literally shaking. Emma had gone to work but kept texting to check on me. I sent her a quick "I'm fine" message and resumed my investigation. Next, I accessed his Google Drive through his email. He maintained a folder called Voice Notes where he stored recordings of calls and conversations, mostly work-related. But then I discovered a recording from 3 months ago of him and Jake laughing about how I was essentially his sugar mama, and how he was just keeping me around until something better comes along. I had given him everything, and he had been mocking me behind my back the entire time. So I created another list. 1. Send voice clips to his boss, the ones where he calls him an incompetent idiot. 2. Send voice clips to his parents where he calls them failures and pathetic. 3. Cancel all shared subscriptions. 4. Pack up his belongings. 5. Change all my passwords and lock him out of my accounts. The voice messages were straightforward. I had them all saved in my Telegram favorites folder. Some I had even downloaded to my phone because they were so shocking at the time. I created a new Telegram account using a temporary number, then forwarded the clips of Randy trashing his boss to his boss. I found his contact information in Randy's email. He had recently sent his resume to him. I did the same with his parents, sending them the clips where he called them pathetic failures and ridiculed them for not being successful enough. I didn't add any commentary, just sent the clips with a simple message. Thought you should hear how Randy speaks about you when you're not present. Next, I logged into all our shared accounts, Netflix, Spotify, etc., and either changed the passwords or terminated them completely. It felt incredibly satisfying to systematically erase him from my digital life. Then came the challenging part, packing his possessions. Randy had lived with me for over 2 years, so he had accumulated many items at my place. I started with his clothes, stuffing them into garbage bags, not even folding them, which felt rebellious since I always folded his laundry. I filled 7 bags just with clothes and shoes. I was halfway through the bathroom items when my doorbell rang. My heart literally stopped. I peeked through the peephole and it was Randy. He was standing there looking dejected with flowers in his hand. Flowers, as if that would fix anything. I didn't answer. I backed away from the door and sat on my hallway floor, trying to remain silent. He rang again and again, then started knocking, then calling my phone, which I had silenced. Finally, he began shouting through the door about how I was being childish and needed to talk like adults. After about 20 minutes of this, one of my neighbors must have threatened to call building security because he finally departed, but not before sliding a note under my door that read, "We need to talk. I'm sorry about last night. It was supposed to be a joke. Please call me." A joke. Being publicly humiliated and degraded by the person who's supposed to love you is not a joke. I returned to packing his belongings with renewed determination. By 6 p.m., I had everything of his in garbage bags by the door. 15 bags total. 3 years of relationship reduced to 15 garbage bags. That's when my phone alerted me to an email notification. It was from the bank. They had approved the payment reversal. The money would be returned to my account within 3 to 5 business days. I literally performed a happy dance in my living room. Almost immediately afterward, I received a frantic text from Randy. "Why is there a tow truck at my apartment? What did you do to my car?" I didn't respond, but I did smile extensively. Around 8 p.m., my phone practically exploded with notifications. It turns out Randy's boss had received the voice clips and immediately summoned him for a meeting. From the string of increasingly desperate texts Randy sent me, it didn't go well. Apparently, his boss had been suspicious about some work issues for a while, and hearing Randy call him an incompetent jerk who couldn't find his ass with both hands was the final straw. Randy was placed on probation pending further review. His parents also received their clips and called him in tears, asking why he would say such horrible things about them. According to his texts, his mother was hysterical, and his father wouldn't even speak to him. By 10 p.m., Randy was sending me these lengthy rambling texts about how I had destroyed his life and how one bad joke didn't justify what I had done. He alternated between begging for forgiveness and threatening legal action. I saved all the texts but responded to none of them. I stayed at Emma's again that night because I was honestly somewhat afraid he might show up intoxicated or something, but in the morning I felt lighter, like I had finally stood up for myself after years of allowing him to walk all over me. The next step was determining what to do with all his belongings. I couldn't keep 15 garbage bags in my apartment, and I definitely didn't want to see him to return them. That's when Emma suggested something that made me gasp. What if we just took it all to the dump? Seemed extreme even after everything. I wasn't sure I could simply discard all his possessions, but then I remembered the emails, the planned humiliation, the cheating, the 3 years of supporting him while he laughed behind my back. So, this morning, Emma borrowed her brother's truck, and we loaded up all 15 bags. I checked through them one final time to ensure there wasn't anything crucially important like birth certificates or irreplaceable family items. I'm not a monster. Then we drove to the local dump and, well, we dumped it. I'm not going to lie. Watching the garbage truck compact all his designer clothes and ridiculous video game collectibles was surprisingly therapeutic. As we were driving back, Randy called from a number I didn't recognize. I'm assuming he borrowed a phone since I had blocked his. I didn't answer, but he left a message saying his car had been repossessed and he needed to retrieve his belongings from my place to at least have something to wear to work tomorrow. Too late, Randy, too late. I'm back at my apartment now. It feels strangely empty without all his things, but also peaceful. I changed all the locks today. My landlord was extremely understanding when I explained the situation. I realized some people might think my actions were excessive, but after 3 years of prioritizing him and being treated like a doormat, it felt exactly like what he deserved. More updates will follow as the fallout continues. His friend Jake has been bombarding my phone with angry messages, and apparently Amber from work is now confused about why Randy is suddenly being so distant with her. The dominoes are still falling. Edit. For those concerned about legal issues, don't worry. I consulted with a friend who knows about these matters. The car was registered in his name, but I made the payments as gifts. I was never legally responsible for it. Plus, I preserved all the truly important documents I found. I'm not that petty. Second update. Y'all are literally the best. The support on my last post was incredible, and so many of you wanted another update. So here's all the tea on everything that's happened in the past week since Randy's belongings found their new home at the local dump. So anyway, the morning after the dump trip, I woke up to this strange scratching sound at my apartment door. Not loud enough to be knocking, but definitely someone was there. I checked my doorbell camera. Thank God I installed one last year after that package thief situation in my building, and saw Randy sitting on the floor outside my door, looking completely wrecked. His hair was all disheveled. He was wearing the same clothes from 2 days ago, and he was just writing something. I turned up the volume and realized he was sliding notes under my door one after another. I tiptoed to the door, still in my pajamas, and saw about 7 little paper notes that had been pushed underneath. Each one had a different message. Please talk to me. I need my stuff for work. My boss is going to fire me. My parents won't talk to me. My car is gone. What did you tell everyone? I'm sleeping in Jake's car. Please answer. Part of me felt a tiny flicker of guilt seeing him like that. For about 3 seconds. Then I remembered sitting alone in that restaurant for 2 hours while he plotted to humiliate me. Nope, not today, Satan. I quietly collected all the notes. Evidence, just in case, and went to make coffee. My Keurig decided to die mid-brew. Of course it would choose now to malfunction, so I had to resort to the emergency instant coffee I keep for power outages. The day was already off to a stellar start. While sipping my sad coffee, I checked my phone. 83 missed calls overnight. texts from numbers I didn't recognize, and 17 voicemails. Randy had been busy. I was about to delete them all when I noticed one from his mom. Interesting. I decided to listen to that one. She sounded upset but not angry. She thanked me for opening her eyes about how her son truly felt and asked if we could talk sometime. She said she had no idea about Randy's behavior and was deeply ashamed that she'd raised someone who would treat a partner that way. I saved that voicemail but deleted the rest. Edit. A lot of you are asking if I called his mom back. Not yet. I'm still processing everything and don't want to get dragged into family drama. Maybe someday. I was preparing to head to Emma's. My apartment felt weirdly empty, and I kept jumping at every sound when my doorbell rang. I checked the camera again and Randy was gone, but his friend Jake was there. Great. I didn't answer, but Jake started talking anyway, knowing I could hear through the door. He said Randy was a broken man, and I needed to stop this revenge game because it had gone too far. Then he said something that made me pause. He claimed he had never been at the restaurant and had no idea what Randy did until afterward. Wait, what? But he was there. I literally watched him laugh at Randy's jokes about me. Was he seriously trying to gaslight me too? I checked the doorbell camera recording later and realized Jake had been filming the whole time he was talking, probably trying to get me to say something he could use against me. Sneaky jerk. After Jake left, I grabbed an overnight bag and headed to Emma's. On the way, I decided to check my bank account. Anxiety, am I right? And saw the car payment refund had already processed. That was quick. Usually these things take forever. I performed a little victory dance right there on the sidewalk, probably looking like a complete weirdo to everyone passing by. At Emma's, we ordered takeout, and I finally felt safe enough to methodically go through everything that had happened. She helped me create a timeline of all the events. I told you I'm a list person. 1. Restaurant humiliation Thursday night. 2. Discovered Randy's emails about planning it Friday morning. 3. Sent voice clips to boss and parents Friday afternoon. 4. Belongings taken to the dump Sunday morning. It looks so calculated when written out like that. For a moment, I wondered if I'd gone too far. Emma must have read my expression because she grabbed my phone, pulled up the screenshots of Randy's emails planning my humiliation, and made me read them aloud again. Nope, I hadn't gone too far. Not even close. Later that afternoon, I grew curious about how effective my little Telegram operation had been. I created a new Instagram account. Don't worry, used a completely random name and stock photo, and looked up Randy's profile, which was set to public because he's trying to build a personal brand, his words, not mine. Y'all, his latest post was a long, rambling apology about how he had made some mistakes and hurt people who didn't deserve it. Classic vague booking without actually admitting what he did. The comments section was chaotic. His friends were asking what happened. Some girl, probably Amber, had commented, "Call me," with a sad face emoji, and his cousin had written, "Grandma's asking why you're not answering her calls." While I was scrolling, okay, fine, I was totally stalking, I received a text from a mutual friend, Damon. He's more Randy's friend than mine, so I was surprised to hear from him. The message simply said, "Can we talk?" Not taking sides, just confused. I ignored it initially, but he followed up with, "Randy told everyone you hacked his accounts and stole from him, but that doesn't sound like you." Hacked his accounts? Stole from him? Oh hell no. Called Damon immediately. He answered on the first ring and sounded genuinely shocked to hear from me. The conversation was illuminating. According to Damon, Randy had told everyone a completely different narrative. He claimed I had gone psycho after a tiny joke at dinner, hacked into his personal accounts, stolen money from him, and destroyed all his possessions out of female hysteria, his actual words. He was painting himself as the victim of a crazy ex-girlfriend. I took a deep breath and asked Damon one question. "Do you want to know what really happened?" When he said yes, I held nothing back. I explained everything. The 2-hour wait, the public humiliation, the discovery of the planned emails, the voice messages Randy had sent about his boss and parents, the fact that I had been financing his car while he mocked me behind my back. I even played him one of the voice clips I'd preserved where Randy called me his personal ATM to his friends. There was a lengthy silence on the line, then Damon simply said, "Holy shit, he's been lying to all of us." Apparently, Randy had been fabricating stories about me for months to his friend group, claiming I was clingy, financially controlling, and emotionally unstable. None of it was true, but they believed him because, well, he was their friend. Damon apologized for not reaching out sooner and asked if he could share the truth with the others. I told him he could relay what I'd shared. The next morning, I finally felt ready to return to my apartment. Emma accompanied me, she's seriously the ultimate friend, to ensure Randy wasn't lurking around. The hallway was clear, but there were more notes under my door. This time they were angrier. "You're destroying my life, and you'll regret this," and my personal favorite, "I know what you did with my stuff." Yeah, I took it to the dump, that wasn't exactly a secret. I spent the day deep cleaning my apartment and rearranging furniture. It's amazing how moving a couch to a different wall can transform a space completely. I discarded the sheets from our bed, too many memories, and ordered new ones online. I even hung up some art prints I'd been keeping in the closet because Randy thought they were too feminine. My apartment was becoming mine again. Wednesday morning brought a new development. I received an email from Randy's workplace. Not from his boss, but from HR. They were investigating a situation and wanted to know if I would be willing to provide any relevant information about Randy's professional conduct. I'm guessing his boss forwarded the voice clips to HR after placing Randy on probation. I replied that I would share what I knew, which was limited to voice messages Randy had voluntarily sent me where he discussed his workplace and colleagues. I emphasized that I hadn't recorded anything myself or obtained anything illegally. They seemed satisfied with that and requested me to forward any relevant messages. I sent them 3 of the most damning ones, where Randy called his boss incompetent, claimed to be doing his boss's job for him, and admitted to taking extended breaks without informing anyone. I don't know what transpired afterward, but Randy's Instagram that evening featured a cryptic post about unemployment in America. So draw your own conclusions. Thursday was when things got bizarre. I was at the grocery store when I literally bumped into Randy's mom. Awkward. I tried to smile politely and continue on, but she stopped me. She asked if we could chat for a minute. She wasn't angry at all. Instead, she thanked me for sending those voice clips. Apparently, she and Randy's dad had been financially supporting him for years without realizing he was ridiculing them behind their backs. The car I thought I was helping pay off. They had actually provided the down payment and co-signed the loan. Randy had been taking money from both them and me. She apologized for raising someone who would treat anyone the way Randy treated me. I could see she was genuinely heartbroken. I didn't have the heart to tell her about the emails planning my humiliation or the other woman. Some things parents just don't need to know. When I arrived home, there was a package outside my door. No notes this time, just a small Amazon box. I was nervous about opening it, thinking it might be some strange gift from Randy. But inside was a Starbucks gift card and a note from my neighbor across the hall thanking me for finally getting rid of that loud jerk. Apparently, Randy would blast music when I wasn't home and had been rude to several neighbors. Who knew? Last night, exactly 1 week after the restaurant incident, I finally changed all my social media to private and blocked Randy's new accounts. He's created 3 since I blocked his original ones. I also changed my phone number, which I'd been postponing because it's such a hassle, but it was worth it for the peace of mind. And then this morning, drumroll please, I received a letter from the car loan company confirming that the loan had been terminated and the vehicle repossessed. They included photographs of the car being towed from outside Jake's apartment, where Randy has apparently been staying. The letter stated that, due to the evidence provided regarding fraudulent representation, they wouldn't be pursuing any further action against me. The loan was Randy's problem now. Emma called to check on me and asked if I felt guilty about any of it. I contemplated for a minute and realized I don't. Not even slightly. Randy spent 3 years taking everything he could from me. My money, my time, my self-esteem. All I did was reveal to everyone who he truly is, using his own words and actions. So what's next? I've started depositing the car payment money into a savings account instead, and I'm considering adopting a cat from the local shelter, something Randy would never permit because he claimed to be allergic. He wasn't. I once discovered antihistamines in his gym bag that he'd take before visiting his cat-owning parents. As for Randy, last I heard from Damon, he's still crashing on Jake's couch, still unemployed. His car is gone, his possessions are gone, and his reputation is in shambles. All because he couldn't resist publicly humiliating the one person who had been supporting him for years. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. Edit. Thanks for all the support, everyone. To address some common questions. 1. No, I don't think I'll ever speak to Randy again, not even for closure. 2. Yes, I did consult with a friend who knows legal matters. Everything I did was within my rights. 3. No, I didn't keep anything of his except important documents, which I'll mail to his parents. 4. Yes, I'm considering changing the locks again because I'm paranoid he made copies. 5. I'll update again if anything major happens, but hopefully this chapter of my life is closed. Edit 2. Several people have asked about the voice messages and how I sent them. I didn't do anything complicated. I literally just forwarded the Telegram voice messages he had sent me to the people he talked about in them. Telegram makes it super easy to forward messages or save them and send them in a new chat. No hacking required. Last update. Hey Reddit family, it's been ages since my last update. Like 6 months OMG. And so many of you have DM'd asking how things turned out after the whole Randy saga. I figured it was time for a proper closure post. First off, I moved about a month after everything went down. I was still feeling uneasy in my old apartment. My lease was ending anyway, so I found a smaller but cuter place across town. It costs a bit more but is worth every penny for the peace of mind. Also, I got a cat. Her name is Callie, and she's this sassy tortoiseshell who mysteriously hates men. My brother came over to help me assemble a bookshelf, and she hissed at him the entire time, but she literally sleeps on my pillow every night, purring like a lawnmower. Soul sister much. I've been saving the car payment money that used to go to Randy's Mustang, and it's accumulated to over $2,300. I'm using some of it for a solo trip to Portland next month. I've never traveled alone before, and I'm nervous but also incredibly excited. Now for the Randy updates, because I know that's what most of you are here for. About a month after my last post, Randy lost his job completely. Not because of the voice messages I sent, though those didn't help, but because he kept showing up late and apparently had a meltdown during a meeting. I know this because his mom still texts me occasionally. We've developed this strange, not friendship exactly, but mutual respect. Randy moved back in with his parents for a while, but according to his mom, that didn't last long. He kept violating their house rules, coming home drunk at 3 a.m., not helping with anything, being disrespectful to them, so they gave him an ultimatum: get a job and contribute or move out. He chose to move out and is now apparently crashing on various friends' couches, though his friend circle has diminished dramatically. His car was sold at auction by the loan company, and get this, it sold for less than what was still owed on it, so he still has to make payments on a car he doesn't even possess anymore. His mom said he tried to blame me legally for this, but his own lawyer told him he didn't have a case since the payments I made were considered gifts, and I had evidence of his deception. The girl from his work, Amber, is now apparently his girlfriend, though from what I've heard through mutual friends, the relationship is extremely toxic. She discovered he was talking to other girls on Tinder while with her but took him back anyway. They've broken up and reconciled about 4 times already. Poor girl is where I was 3 years ago, and I genuinely hope she figures it out faster than I did. Oh, I almost forgot the strangest part of this whole saga. 3 months ago, Randy's brother reached out to me on Instagram. We'd only met about twice during my relationship with Randy, so it was completely unexpected. He apologized for his brother's behavior and then asked me out. I thought, "Sir, this is highly inappropriate." Oh, I politely declined and blocked him too. Some people have absolutely no self-awareness, I swear. I calculated approximately how much I spent on Randy over our 3 years together. Between the car payments, covering rent when he was between jobs, paying for most of our dates, and various loans that were never repaid, and it came to over $30,000. That's a down payment on a house. I could have traveled the world. I could have paid off my student loans. Instead, I financed the lifestyle of someone who called me a pathetic puppy to my face. Edit. Some people in the comments are saying I went too far by getting him fired and sending materials to his parents. First, I didn't get him fired. His own words got him fired. Second, if you're still defending him after he planned and executed a public humiliation of someone who supported him for years, maybe examine why that is. Some of you have asked if I would ever consider talking to him again for closure or whatever. The answer is no. I don't need to hear his excuses or his version of events. My closure came when I walked out of that restaurant 6 months ago. Everything since then has just been confirmation that I made the right decision. So that's where things stand, Reddit. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And if they call you a pathetic puppy, take their car and dump their belongings at the local landfill. That's just a joke, at least mostly.